is CNN.
A strong winter storm bears down on the southeast, leaving behind plenty of damage, but meteorologists say the worst is yet to come.
If you have friends in high places, you can get around the law.
Who cashed in on former President Bill Clinton's controversial pardons? As Congress searches for answers, a presidential historian puts some perspective on the search. And
every lecture is like a show.
An offbeat professor puts a new spin on traditional college lectures. Hello from the CNN Center in Atlanta. I'm Donna Kelly. This is CNN Saturday. We're sure glad to have you join us. More on those stories in just a minute. First, though, there reportedly are no survivors from this morning's crash of a Florida National Guard transport plane south of Macon, Georgia. CNN got that information from the Dooley County Sheriff a short time ago. The C-23 turboprop was flying from Florida to Virginia when it went down during bad weather near the Georgia town of Unadilla. Happened around 10 o'clock in the morning local time, carrying 3 crew members from the Florida Army National Guard and 18 other military personnel. Public fire and rescue workers rushed to the scene to put out the fire. The National Guard and Federal Aviation Administration are now investigating. And joining us on the phone once again, as he did earlier with us, is John Birdsong. He's the Public Affairs Officer with Air Logistics at Robins Air Force Base in Georgia. Mr. Birdsong, we have since learned from the sheriff in Dooley County that there were no survivors. Can you confirm that for us?
Yes, that's correct.
Of the 21 people, no survivors.
Right, there were 3 Army crew members and 18 Air Force Air National Guard, along with members of the 171st AVN Army Air National Guard on board.
At what stage are we at now, then, in the recovery of the bodies?
It's ongoing right now. We have a support group down there who are helping. Local officials have been taking care of the crash scene up until now. We did confirm that it was an Army C-23 aircraft.
It's a special ops plane. What are they supposed to be doing? What's their job?
I'm not familiar with an Army C-23 aircraft as being the special ops type aircraft. It could be, but I can't confirm that.
Yeah, we heard that it was a fixed-wing turboprop used by special operations. That apparently came from a Florida National Guard spokesman. Do you know whether it was on a training mission now?
My estimation would be they would probably be just transporting them as passengers from one place to another.
It came from Florida, was going to Virginia. Would that be a normal operation to transport people?
I believe so, yeah. They were coming from Hurlbut Field, Florida, on their way to Oceana, Virginia.
We did talk to our Jackie Jarris, our meteorologist, earlier, and you had mentioned earlier as well that it was raining pretty badly. And the sheriff told us that there was a fire, but that the fire was out. Do you have any more information on what's happened with the plane? He said it was all in one spot, but that it was broken apart.
Right. We understand that the fire people who were on the scene did suppress the fire almost immediately.
And what about the plane? What do you know about the plane at this point? Can you tell us anything?
We haven't been told anything as to what condition the aircraft was in.
All right. John Birdsong, who's the Public Affairs Officer with Air Logistics at Robins Air Force Base in Georgia, thank you so much for the information that you have at this point. The East Coast bracing for a major blast of winter. 2 storm systems, in fact, one coming from Canada, one now moving up from the southeast, both expected to merge tomorrow over the mid-Atlantic states, spawning a massive snowstorm. Our meteorologist, Jackie Jarris, with us once again. And is this a nor'easter?
It will become a nor'easter. Right now, we're looking at more of a spring-type storm system, bringing showers and thunderstorms and severe weather into parts of the southeast. We have some watches which are in effect at this time, and we'll show you our latest radar loop and where those watches are. You can see a tornado watch in effect for much of the panhandle of Florida along I-10 and just off to the west of there, and then a severe thunderstorm watch in yellow there, which includes the New Orleans area. The tornado watch in effect until 3 p.m., and we're looking at 4 p.m. for an expiration time on the severe thunderstorm watch. Now, our satellite picture really shows these 2 storm systems together well. Big area of cloud cover here associated with our main storm. Look at all of that moisture flowing in from the Gulf of Mexico, so ample moisture is in place. If you look way up here in Canada near our little banner, we also have another area of low pressure up there, and this is going to be a big-time blast of cold air. That storm will come down towards the Great Lakes, and as our storm in the south moves up here, it's going to interact and become a big coastal bomb, is what we call it there, into parts of the Northeast. Now, I want to show you that we do have some other flash flood watches in effect, and we will also see some winter weather watches pushed into effect for tomorrow, Monday, and into Tuesday. So we are just getting started with this storm system, starting out mostly as rain throughout New England and then transitioning over to some snow, and some areas could see 1, possibly even up to 2 feet of snow.
Oh, my heavens.
So this is going to be a big one and affecting the beginning of the work week on Monday, and we'll have more details on that in just a little bit.
Stock the pantry, hurry. Jackie, thank you. One of those systems has, in fact, already soaked a wide swath of the south. Heavy rains yesterday have swollen area lakes and rivers in East Texas and southeastern Arkansas. In northern Louisiana, residents have been sandbagging waterways and neighborhoods, and relentless rains have pushed many rivers and lakes and bayous there above flood stage. System also spawned a tornado early Friday evening in Montgomery, Alabama. 2 houses destroyed in one neighborhood. No serious injuries, though, reported. Experts are still assessing the damage in Washington state from this week's powerful earthquake. Estimates from Wednesday's 6.8 magnitude quake now top $2 billion. 6 counties have been declared federal disaster areas, clearing the way for federal recovery aid. In Seattle, a major bridge into the city remains closed, while controllers at SeaTac Airport continue to work out of a temporary facility after the control tower was heavily damaged. In Olympia, many state capitol buildings also remain off limits, and that's because of structural damage. President Bush took to the airwaves today to push his tax cut proposal. Mr. Bush used his weekly radio address to offer some of the details of the $1.6 trillion package.
After meeting these national priorities, my budget pays down a record amount of national debt. We will pay off $2 trillion of debt over the next decade. That will be the largest debt reduction of any country ever. Future generations shouldn't be forced to pay back money that we have borrowed. We owe this kind of responsibility to our children and grandchildren.
Mr. Bush spent the past week on the road promoting his tax cut plan. After spending the weekend at Camp David, he plans more stops this coming week to try to sway some Democratic lawmakers. In the Democrats' radio response, Congressman John Spratt of South Carolina called the Bush tax package too ambitious.
Democrats have 3 problems with the president's proposal. First, it leaves little margin of error if the 10-year projections prove wrong. Second, it leaves little room for priorities that both parties have made commitments to, like education and defense. And third, it leaves nothing to meet our long-term liabilities to Social Security and Medicare.
Mr. Bush's proposal includes across-the-board tax cuts and a repeal of the estate tax. It's drawn the skepticism of some Republicans as well. After a busy week of testimony on Capitol Hill, there have been lots of revelations about the White House and the Mark Rich pardon, but still no smoking gun. CNN's national correspondent Eileen O'Connor has this report.
Documents released by congressional investigators show attorneys for fugitive financier Mark Rich considered applying directly to the White House for a pardon early last year. On February 10th, prosecutors in New York have refused to meet with Jack Quinn to discuss a plea bargain. Rich associate Avner Azoulay, a former agent of the Israeli Secret Service, sends an email to Bob Fink, Rich's lead attorney, saying the present impasse leaves us with only one other option, the unconventional approach, which has not yet been tried. Jack Quinn has testified that unconventional approach, a pardon petition, wasn't seriously pursued until the fall, but now concedes it might have been earlier.
It is entirely conceivable that there were conversations in which the notion of one day pursuing a pardon took place.
Yet on March 18th, Azoulay writes about an idea to send DR, or Denise Rich, on a personal mission to number 1, the president, with a well-prepared script. On March 31st, the Democratic National Committee records a $50,000 donation from Denise Rich. From then until early November, she donates nearly $300,000 to the party and some candidates. Still, even Republican investigators admit while the money trail looks suspicious, it doesn't prove there was any deal between Rich and the president to grant a pardon in exchange for contributions. Denise Rich had a long track record donating to Democratic causes, giving $399,000 between 1993 and 1998. She also pledged $450,000 to the Clinton Library in 1998, a full 2 years before Marc Rich's lawyers ever consider a pardon application.
The lack of a smoking gun means the political pressure is building to wrap up these congressional investigations, leaving it to the U.S. Attorney in New York to find what, if any, criminal wrongdoing may be involved. Eileen O'Connor, CNN, Washington.
Hillary Rodham Clinton's brother Tony is defending his role in a pair of controversial pardons. Edgar Allen Gregory and his wife Vanna Jo were pardoned last March despite objections by the Justice Department. They'd been convicted of bank fraud. The Gregorys were business associates of Tony Rodham, and on CNN's Larry King Live last evening, Rodham said that he asked Bill Clinton to pardon the couple, but he never received any money from them. He also defended his brother Hugh.
Some of the things that they have done to my brother are, I would say that they're unconscionable. They're wrong. It's not right to do that. I understand the press that says they have, the people have the right to know, but, to tell my brother that my mother had a heart attack and just to get him to call the press is ridiculous. I'm somewhat in the same situation. I've had some press people sitting outside my house. I have nothing to say to them.
You may recall that Hugh Rodham received $430,000 for his part in winning pardons for 2 convicted felons. He says, though, that he has returned the money. The recent controversies have raised a lot of questions about the pardon process itself. And among those who have testified before Congress is Alan Lichtman. He's a presidential historian and history professor at American University and joins us now from Washington. Professor Lichtman, glad that you could come to visit with us. Thanks.
Thanks, Donna.
In your testimony, did you find any abuses or hear anything that made you think that something should be changed in the process?
No, I didn't hear anything that made me think things should be changed in the process. And all 4 witnesses, whether called by Republicans or Democrats, all agreed we should not muck around with the Constitution through amendment, and we should not stretch the Constitution by trying to legislate in the area of presidential pardons. That doesn't mean, though, that there haven't been lots of pardon controversies going back to the earliest days of our republic.
Well, let's stay with the ones that are in the news currently, the pardons for the moment, and we'll talk about history in a second. But for the moment, there are a lot of folks who don't go along with some of the pardons that Bill Clinton did. Even with that, they think that there should be no changes?
That's right. Personally, I don't go along with some of the pardons that Bill Clinton did. From what I know, I only read it in the newspapers and watch it on television.
But then why don't you think there should be a change?
Because this is the case of a dog not barking. There have been over 20,000 uses of the pardon, some 20,000 alone in the 20th century.
And how many of those have been controversial?
Very few. A tiny percentage have been controversial, and inevitably you're going to get controversy. And to try to change it, for example, by turning Congress into a super appeals court, something rejected by the framers, is only going to make the pardon process worse, more political. Plus, as former pardon attorney Ms. Love testified, the problem with pardons generically is perhaps there are too few of them. Recent presidents have used the pardons much more stingily than past presidents, and maybe haven't used the pardon power enough to point out some of the inequities in our criminal justice system. That's gotten lost in the high-profile controversies over some of these egregious pardons.
President has the full power of pardon, but you even mentioned the process. And some people have complained that the process wasn't followed in some of these controversial pardons, about last minute for one thing, and that not going to the Department of Justice. What about that? If you don't follow the process, should it be changed?
No, I don't think so. Look, I do think for the most part there should be orderly process, but that doesn't mean you have to change the pardon power generically if it breaks down. And sometimes a president has got to issue a pardon in the face of contrary advice and maybe even in the face of public opinion. John Adams.
I was just going to say, real quickly, can you wind us up with a historical perspective on this?
John Adams pardoned some anti-tax rebels against the advice of his entire cabinet. To his dying day, he thought he acted justly. So do most historians today. There have been egregious uses of the pardon, and I think historically the lesson is a president has got to exercise a mix of courage and caution, but we should not either tie the president's hands or make the process even more political by putting Congress in the loop.
Thank you, Professor Alan Lichtman, who is a presidential historian and professor of history at American University. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And for more on the pardon controversy and President Bush's first 100 days, you can tune in to Late Edition, noon Eastern tomorrow. Wolf Blitzer will be hosting former vice presidential candidate Jack Kemp and former Clinton advisor David Gergen, and also the vice president currently, Dick Cheney, will be on his program as well. And for an in-depth look at the constantly evolving pardons controversy, you can log on to CNN.com. The AOL keyword is CNN. Great.
Who's the perfect host for your e-business applications? Someone who helps you stay cool, calm, and collected. Even when a few million guests decide to drop in. Someone from Generation D. Web hosting from WorldCom. Generation D.
What's my investment strategy? How about buy things before they go up?
For a personal financial plan, please press 5.
I'm going to pay for this. What was I?
This market's still got a lot of upside.
This market's going south.
Why didn't they write this last month?
Can't believe Dad thought he could check stock prices on this thing.
Okay, 2 of your stocks are up. What about the other 15?
Thank you, Paine-Webber.
If the value of your home has risen during the last couple of years, now may be a great time to refinance and cash out some of your equity. Just log on to Ditech.com or call us at 1-800-71-FIXED. Today's low fixed rate is only 6.875%, APR 7.042% with 0 points. And there are no upfront fees. It's smart money from Ditech.com. Apply online or call us now at 1-800-71-FIXED.
What's the easy way to get online? It's gotta be America Online. Easy.
I love hearing,
"You've got mail." Free 24-hour customer service.
Everyone I know is on AOL.
Easy.
My favorite feature on AOL is instant messages.
I feel real secure with AOL.
Easy.
With parental controls, I feel better about my kids being online.
AOL's the easy one.
So easy to use, no wonder it's #1. Call 1-800-4ONLINE. Easy. Yeah.
Got to be one of America's most grueling sporting events, the Iditarod. The 1,100-mile sled dog race kicked off today. 68 sled dog teams are leaving from Anchorage, Alaska, beginning a trek that weaves across the center of Alaska to Nome.
It's a very exuberant dog team, a little bit wilder than I've had in the past. The young guys are a little bit over-exuberant, so I'm going to be overly cautious insofar as safety measures for my own person. You know, they get a little wild and crazy, so sometimes they're hard to control.
Now, to give you some idea how long this race is, it's longer than the drive from Boston to Atlanta. And joining us now from the starting line, CNN's Lillian Kim. Lillian?
Well, the Iditarod is officially underway, and I'm sure you can hear the loud barking that's going on. 68 mushers, 1,000 dogs, and thousands of spectators have converged here in downtown Anchorage for what's known as the last great race on Earth. The competition began about an hour ago. The mushers leave the start line at 2-minute intervals. The difference in time is adjusted at the mandatory 24-hour layover. Now, the favorite is last year's winner, Doug Swingley. He's won the Iditarod 3 times, and he's the first and only non-Alaskan resident to win the 1,100-mile race. Many say he has one of the fastest team of dogs. For Swingley, that will pose somewhat of a challenge.
It's a very exuberant dog team, a little bit wilder than I've had in the past. The young guys are a little bit over-exuberant, so I'm going to be overly cautious insofar as safety measures for my own person. You know, they get a little wild and crazy, so sometimes they're hard to control.
This is an 1,100-mile race through the Alaskan wilderness, and because of the hazards along the way, not every musher is expected to reach the finish line in Nome. But if they do finish, it usually takes them anywhere from 9 to 15 days. Reporting live from Anchorage, Alaska, I'm Lillian Kim. Donna, back to you.
Lillian, thanks. We'll see you soon, and we'll take a quick break here. Back with more right after this.
Congratulations. Your new website is averaging 476,000 hits a day, generating more than 1 million new bits of information about your customers every week. That sound you hear isn't your technology at work. It's all that information crying out to be understood.
If your body is your temple, think of this as its caretaker. Introducing Harmony, a new cereal made just for a woman. It provides nutrients a woman needs, plus soy. All in a delicious vanilla almond oat flake cereal. New Harmony, made just for a woman's body.
The more you travel, the more you notice space is at a premium. And the more you'll appreciate United's Economy Plus, with up to 5 extra inches of legroom. One more thing we're doing to make it easier to feel United.
Other stories making news for you. The U.S. Coast Guard has called off its search for 9 people still missing from last month's submarine collision when the USS Greenville accidentally hit a Japanese fishing vessel off Hawaii. 26 people from the boat were rescued. The 9 still missing are presumed dead. Coast Guard and the Navy are now focusing on salvage efforts. In Thailand, a jetliner burst into flames just minutes before the Prime Minister was to board the plane. The explosion and fire killed 1 crew member and injured 7 other people. What caused the blast is still unclear, but officials say that they are not ruling out a bomb. The death toll in Britain's fatal train crash may not be as high as first thought. Police say they may readjust their figures from 13 dead to possibly 10. 70 people were hurt Wednesday when an express train collided with a car and then struck an oncoming freight train. Right now, more on the weather for you with our Jackie Jarris. Plenty to talk about, Jackie.
Yeah, Donna, there really is. We're looking at a lot of heavy rain and big-time downpours into parts of the southeast. We're looking at heavy rain from eastern Texas extending up into the lower Ohio River Valley and back over into the Carolinas, and the threat of severe weather will persist into Louisiana and along the Gulf Coast here until at least 4 o'clock Central Time, and we may see additional watches later in the afternoon and into the evening for South Georgia. So we'll be watching that part of the country very closely into the evening. Now, this part of the country already seen heavy rainfall over the last 5 days. Some spots between 5 and 8 inches, so flash flood watch is in effect from Houston extending over to Columbus, Georgia. Now, our storm system that we're looking at in the southeast now is going to eventually ride its way up the coast and become a major nor'easter. So there are winter weather watches in effect from Charlottesville all the way up to Boston, and this storm will affect this part of the country through Tuesday morning. Now, along the coastline, we will see some coastal flooding, and that's why we have coastal flood warnings, which are in effect, and some voluntary evacuations are being asked now into parts of New Jersey. Here's where our storm track will go. Late in the day today, we'll watch it head towards Florida and then head up the coast into the mid-Atlantic. We also have a big punch of cold air coming in from the north, which will interact with that storm, and that's why we're going to see some of this very heavy snowfall. Now, as we head into your Monday, here's what we're expecting: some rain and snow into the Carolinas, very blustery conditions associated with this storm as well, so whiteout conditions will be a good possibility on your Monday. No big breaks yet on Tuesday. We'll watch for improvements into the mid-Atlantic, but things will get worse the farther north into New England that we get, and then into Wednesday, it looks like everybody can take a big breather. We'll have more on CNN Saturday right after this.
All right, boys, last card.
I'm gonna raise you $1.
You must have something, boys.
Just $1. Hey, don't you know about 10-10-220? What?
Yeah, man, 10-10-220. All calls up to 20 minutes. 99 cents.
Just 7 cents a minute after that.
All calls up to 20 minutes for only 99 cents? See, $1 is worth a lot. I'm out.
Me too. I call you.
Do you have any 5s?
Go fish.
Dial 10-10-220.
I think the stock market, to some degree or another, is a puzzle. Stock price doesn't necessarily mean that you're right or wrong. What does matter is, are the fundamentals of these companies improving day after day? What we're trying to do when we invest in mid-caps is find potential blue-chip companies. There's so much information out there, people don't often see the forest for the trees. We have to cut through the information and find the kernel of truth, and that's really the key to portfolio management.
Worldbeat, music television with intelligence. This week, Britain's answer to the Grammys, the Brit Awards, and Tibet unites East and West at Carnegie Hall. Plus, British band Coldplay makes a lasting impression. Worldbeat, in tune with Volvo. Tonight at midnight Eastern on CNN.
Tonight on Larry King Weekend, a teacher once told him if he'd read more books and tell less jokes, he'd be a star. The rest is history. The best of Jay Leno tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
I'm Wolf Blitzer. Sunday on CNN's Late Edition, the last word in Sunday Talk. Vice President Dick Cheney on the president's first weeks in office, the tax cut battle, and more. Plus, Congressman Dick Armey and Charlie Rangel. Sunday, noon Eastern on CNN.
Hip-hop music has wrapped its way into the mainstream, and now it's getting credibility in the classroom thanks to a professor with a different beat. CNN's Francis Mejia tunes us in.
It's unusual to hear hip-hop music played in a college classroom. But from head to toe, Todd Boyd is no ordinary professor.
Because improvisation is about creativity.
I think he's great. He's got a lot of personality. Every lecture is like a show.
Boyd teaches at the University of Southern California's top-ranked film school. In his popular hip-hop class, Boyd talks about rap artists like Snoop Doggy Dogg seen in this music video.
So much drama in the LBC, it's kind of hard being Snoop D-O Double G.
You know, people love hip-hop. They listen to it, they grew up to it, they feel it, they understand it, they appreciate it. And it's, you know, for students, particularly undergraduate students, it's part of their world. So I want to talk to people about what they're into.
Boyd's university colleagues say his appeal is universal, but that Boyd is especially important to black youth as a role model.
African-American professors are few and far between in, the U.S. college system, and particularly here at USC, so it's nice to have people who don't look like, maybe the stereotypical portrayal of what a college professor is.
And Boyd's anything but a stereotype. He's one of USC's youngest tenured professors and has written 4 books. And if that's not enough, he also produced and co-wrote a Hollywood movie, The Wood.
It sounds nice.
The Wood was a box office hit, but Boyd says he's not going Hollywood. He came to Los Angeles to teach, and The Wood is just another way to get his message out.
If there's a message, I'm sort of trying to teach people through my being that you don't have to do what, everybody tells you to do. You don't have to follow the crowd. You don't have to fit in. I ain't never fit in no place I've been in my life. But I still do my thing, and I do it with feeling, and I do it with passion. And as long as I'm around, that's the way I'm going to do it.
And Professor Boyd keeps on doing it here at USC. He's currently working on his 5th book due out this summer. It's about rap music and is called Cash Rules Everything Around Me. In Los Angeles, I'm Francis Mejia reporting for CNN's Student Bureau.
And that is CNN Saturday. I'm Donna Kelly. Glad you could join us. Your health up next. First, though, another look at the day's top stories after this short break.
What's the easy way to get online? It's gotta be America Online. Easy.
I love hearing,
You've got mail. Free 24-hour customer service.
Everyone I know is on AOL.
Easy.
My favorite feature on AOL is instant messages.
I feel real secure with AOL.
Easy.
With parental controls, I feel better about my kids being online.
AOL's the easy one.
So easy to use, no wonder it's #1. Call 1-800-4online. Easy. Yeah.
Today on Evans Novak Hunt and Shields, President Bush's chief strategist, senior White House advisor Karl Rove, today 5:30 p.m. Eastern on CNN.
Now is the time to save hundreds of dollars, only at Mattress World. Rollbacks from the factories have allowed us to slash prices on some of our best-selling mattresses. We only sell top brands: Sealy, Posturepedic, Correct Comfort, and even Crown Jewel. Hurry in, some of these items are limited to stock on hand. It's not too late to sleep like a baby. Mattress World off I-205, exit 12, 8 blocks north of Clackamas Fred Meyer, where low overhead means low prices.
Part of the fun of being an AT&T broadband customer is that there's always something good on. For everyone. All the time. That's one thing that will never change.
Hi, I'm Kathy Koo. With AT&T Digital Cable, you can watch different channels on different TVs at the same time. Unlike satellite, you don't have to buy extra equipment and pay even more. Call us to find out why digital cable is the smarter choice.
Get to the point with Greta Van Susteren, weeknights 8:30 Eastern on CNN.
Hello, I'm Donna Kelly at the CNN Center in Atlanta, checking the hour's top stories for you. There are no survivors from today's crash of a Florida National Guard transport plane in Georgia. The C-23 turboprop was carrying 21 people when it went down in a ball of fire during bad weather near the city of Macon. The plane was on a flight from Florida to Virginia. The National Guard and FAA are now investigating. Folks from Virginia to Maine bracing for what could be a true nor'easter. Two storm systems, a wet one that's churning through the south and a very cold one that's moving down from Canada, are expected to collide sometime tomorrow over the mid-Atlantic states. The new system expected to dump heavy snow as it tracks northward Monday and Tuesday. President Bush not letting up on his push to sell his tax cut package after taking his plea on the road this week. He took it to the airwaves today. In his radio address, Mr. Bush urged listeners to help him get the $1.6 trillion tax cut passed. It's the centerpiece of his budget proposal, and he is on the road again next week. I'm Donna Kelly. More news on CNN Live as it happens. Your health starts right now.